Good afternoon. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Healing Forum. I'm Dr. Nene Chung, and I'm happy to begin with this new series called The Art of Healing. And my inspiration for this is looking at the world around us and how we are so consumed with the pinpoint approach, the approach where we are looking at the particles instead of the waves. And so, what do I mean by that? I basically mean that when Shakespeare said, "A rose by any other name would smell as sweet," the idea is that when we name the name, and whether it's a virus, a bacteria, cancer, whatever entity we think is about to attack us, I suggest that we look someplace else and we take some dimensional approach. And the idea would be, where does healing really occur? Does it begin with the actual diagnosis? Does it begin with the particle, the name, the virus, the bacteria? Does it begin in our thoughts? And does it even matter where it begins? Because where does the real healing occur? And I would like to propose that the real healing occurs within ourselves. Because we're always looking outside ourselves. We're looking to the environment, we're looking to our doctors, we're looking to our friends and our family. And when we have the fear, whether it's cancer or COVID or HIV or AIDS or MRSA, whatever we call it, the idea is that we get consumed by fear, and I would say fear, loathing, anxiety, stress. And within that realm, we cannot heal ourselves. And so I'm calling it the art of healing, because I propose that the only way the true essence of healing from the inside out occurs is for us to be able to, if you will, face the demon within us. And I don't mean to make light of any particular medical condition or chronic illness or stress or psychotic breakdown or mental illness. That's not what I'm here to say. I'm just proposing that there's another alternative way to look at this. And that the piece of the puzzle that's been missing, that we look at in terms of complementary, holistic, what we call functional medicine, lifestyle medicine, is that we're looking for what the actual source of the original injury is. And that injury could be the bacteria. It could be a car accident. It could be a physical trauma. It could be an emotional trauma. It could be a psychological trauma. So by any other name, it almost, not that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter. So if we say that it doesn't matter where it starts, the idea now is that we can take our own healing within us and start to really manifest the art. And the art is, I would say, the combination of what I call body, heart, and soul healing. And body is the physical manifestation. And so we actually have a physical body that we can touch, and it exists in time and space. But we know, if we start to really analyze, I mean, it's been said that we probably have more electrons, neutrons, particles in our bodies and atoms in our bodies than there is in the whole universe, in the whole Milky Way. And when you think of it like that, it's pretty unimaginable to some extent. But we think very linearly. And so if we step off the wheel of our thinking, of our traditional thinking, and our 3D, you know, things have shape and form, they have sound, they have color. So we think we know things, but if we go into the realm of quantum physics, we know that we're vibrating at such a fast rate that we actually can't see the vibration. We can't see the speed of the atoms running through us. We look like we have, a face and hands, and it looks very concrete, like a wall. When we look at a wall, spatially, it looks like we can't move through it. And yet we know through time and space that whether you're doing a karate move or you're doing remote healing, that there is a way that we're able to actually move through time and space. And I think that's the new paradigm that we're undergoing right now, which has been around, I would say, for thousands of years. But we're looking at it now in terms of real energy medicine. And even the greatest technology now is moving in a whole different dimension that we're traditionally used for. Because the idea is really that what we want to accomplish is that we want to heal without damaging the species. We don't want to damage the body. And so it's always a correlation. How much damage does the healing process do versus how much healing can occur through that? So it's a balance. When you're undergoing chemotherapy or immunotherapy, does the good outweigh the bad? And so we're always making that contrasting decision. And so I want to propose that let's look at it more like artists. And from an artistic point of view, let's go through a little bit of dimensional healing approach. And imagine that our brains and our bodies are computers. So we have the ability to program and to reprogram. And so we start with the actual physical manifestation of the body. And we know that what the body is dependent on is food, nutrients, water, and air. And so to some extent, we actually can shift the physical by what we eat. We shift the physical by the exercise that we do. We shift the physical by kind of the playfulness that we have, right? Like having a belly laugh as opposed to crying. So within the body, we have all this, like infinite potential and infinite possibility. And even if you have a car accident, I mean, my history is that I was in a car accident when I was 18, and I was told after 1 year of going to an orthopedic surgeon, Nene, you have 15% loss of range of motion in your neck, and you have pain and you have headaches, and deal with it. This is your life. And I was my first awakening to, no, I don't believe that. And so I looked for other avenues. I found chiropractic, I found massage, I found ultrasound, I found exercise, because I rejected the theory that I had to live on drugs and that I had to be in chronic pain. That was a relatively easy transition in terms of working with the body. And, in terms of the body, we look at, chronic issues that we have today, just like diabetes and, high blood sugar and low blood sugar. Now, there's a physical manifestation that maybe, some children have juvenile diabetes, and so the pancreas just doesn't produce enough insulin. But for the majority of us, it's really what we call, a secondary stage of diabetes. And what that means is that we develop it over years of time of poor eating, poor diet, poor exercise. And it's mostly lifestyle choices that we can then choose to change to actually make the physical shift. Now, it doesn't mean that the pancreas will produce more insulin necessarily, but if we eat the right foods, then we're not driving the system to be in like an overworked state all of the time. Because when we eat too much sugar or we're under too much stress, then the body thinks it's an emergency situation. So it's like the fight or flight syndrome. When the body thinks that you're under stress and there's like a leopard coming to get you, it will say, okay, shoot out the glucose from the liver cells, from the muscle cells, from the red blood cells, so that your muscles actually then have the sugar energy capacity to run and escape from the danger that's lurking behind us. The problem with modern day living is that if we're always in a state of constant stress, then the body is constantly saying, dump more sugar into the bloodstream because you need that. So you could be sitting at your computer imagining that this line is coming after you, or imagining that, there's a stressful situation, and your mind then can create the physiological condition. And so the body has a miraculous way of recouping and being able to recover unless we drive it into the ground. And so there's an art to that. And it's not always a black or white, a yin or a yang situation. It's not sunshine or darkness. There's a fine gray area in between. Remember, there's the colors of the rainbow. And we need to start to traverse those pathways, I would say, and think about our body as we're the master controller to a large extent. Now, there are some things that we're not in control of. We're not in control of when our digestive enzymes come out, and we're not in control necessarily of when we have to urinate or when we need to have a bowel movement. But we can control it somewhat in terms of what we eat and the amount of fiber that we're taking in. So you can control your muscle. You can make a fist. You can decide to lift your arm up. You can decide to blink your eyes. That's all voluntary movements, but there's also involuntary movements. And those things sometimes you can also affect just by the mindfulness of going into a state of relaxation. And in a state of relaxation, you actually provide the body with the calmness, or I would say the tools that the body needs to make the right decisions for you. The other aspect in terms of body heart. Now, we realize that our heart governs so many different things. And I always go back to, the Chinese, being that I'm half Chinese, or the Asian system, where it's not just the body, the physical being of the body. There is a manifestation of emotions that go along with it. So, we know that we have a physiological heart that beats and ejects blood and, works with oxygen with the lungs. And so it pumps out the blood, the oxygenated blood. It's circulating through our whole system, and it's actually, sending out nutrients to our body. But we also have the heart of feeling. And the heart of feeling, the research that we're looking at these days, there's something called heart math, that the coherence or the evenness of the heart rate, when we can actually bring it into a meditative state, or we call it a mindful state, that when the heart is at rest and relaxed and calm, then we go into that coherent state and everything is peaceful and everything is beautiful. And we're creating more serotonin. We're creating that love hormone in our body, the same hormone that women produce when they've had children and when they're milking and breastfeeding. So it's not just the physical manifestation, there's the emotional manifestation. And so we can look at every organ of our body and say it has both an emotional, psychological component as well as a physiological or physical structure and function with that. So the conversation gets pretty fascinating, I think, when we look at the body and the healing capacity of the body, when we start to actually use some of these methods and tools in terms of what I would say is the true art of healing. Because healing doesn't occur in a test tube. Healing doesn't occur. We study science and we say, oh, this is a known fact. But the truth is that it's not a known fact, that even science can be somewhat perverted in terms of different studies. Excuse me. So depending on who the viewer is and who the viewer is looking at, we can change the perspective of the study that we're actually doing. So again, I propose that nothing is really in black and white. We can alter statistics and we can alter facts and figures depending on what we're actually thinking. We begin to put our own logical thinking in ways that alters reality, if you will. And reality is only, as we know, I mean, my reality is very different than your reality, because I say it's blue and you say it's red, and you might be colorblind, or I might think that red looks a certain way. And it's all the shades and variations in between. So there is no reality and there is no truth per se. It really is our own personal perspective on things. And so, again, when you're looking at the healing of the body and what the body actually needs and requires, to go back to what we call a homeostasis level, then what we're working to do, what we're trying to do, what we're miraculously attempting to do, is bring the body into this coherent state of healing. Because ultimately, when you study the body, every physiological biochemical pathway, the body is putting in the nutrients, the chemicals, the enzymes, the vitamins, the minerals to pull processes through in order to effectively heal and effectively mechanically get us to work. So that we need magnesium for muscles, we need calcium for for musculature, we need it for bone strength, we need protein for our muscle strength, we need protein in every organ of our body to make those biochemical reactions go. And if something is missing or lacking, then you won't go to a state of physiological perfection. You won't produce those hormones, you won't produce those brain cells, you won't produce those nerve fibers, and things synaptically will not fire unless it has the proper nutrients and oxygen. And so when you start to look at the body like that, like everything is in this perfect state. Now, we haven't had to tell it really anything, but when the body goes out of balance, imagine if you started to communicate with your body in such a way that it could effectively heal. And so the real idea for me is that when we start having these conversations, instead of trying to fix things from the outside in, let's work on fixing from the inside out. And in that way, as artists, as creators of our body, as creators of body, heart, and then we bring in soul. And what is soul? I know it's, who knows what soul is? You can't touch it. You don't necessarily feel it. You can't smell it. Is it a physical manifestation? We've called it spirit. I like to say soul because it's a link to our heart. It's a link to our intuitive self. For me, it's a link also to the planetary changes, to astrology, astronomy. So it's as without, so within, as within, so without. It's the heart's desire, if you will, to create. And, we've done and seen studies where couples that have been together over years and years and years electromagnetically have created a force field between them. And when one of them dies, when we talk about the loss of the heart or the pain that a person would experience when they've lost their partner and their loved one, it's a loss of the heart, the sensation, but it's actually an electromagnetic field, force field, that actually now has been disrupted. So we have so many things that are affecting us that we haven't really paid attention to in Western world of medicine. And, I would say that the Eastern world has taken some of that into more consideration. And now really it's a time for really manifesting and blending the two ideas, that we are not just our physical being, we are not just our scientific being, but we're the combination of the body, the heart, the soul, and the real healing that has to occur within us is not just through drugs and chemicals and from the outside, but it really needs to begin with the inside. And I like to call it mindful healing through joy and laughter. Because without the laughter, without the effusiveness of love, what is there really? What fun is that? And I think we're here to have fun. We're here to experience. We're here to share. We're here to communicate. And so I want to be that voice for all of that. And I invite you to continue to join with me in the Healing Forum and to have these discussions. And if I can open one person's mind to this idea of miraculous healing and miraculous recovery, that's what I'm here to do. And so thank you once again. Please feel free to sign up for future classes, join my Facebook group, which is Body, Heart, and Soul Healing, and stay tuned for up and coming episodes. Thank you so much.